Well, good on you. Talk about building character. Thank you very much. I'll be a wuss and take my air conditioning.
Yeah. We'll open a window and it'll be just as hot.
Even hotter, 'cause
Hello and welcome to episode 331 of the Rockstar CMO effing marketing podcast, a proud member of the Marketing Podcast Network. It's Saturday the 18th of July. I'm your host, Ian Truscott. I'm not a rock star, but I am a full-time B2B CMO, and I hope you're well and staying as sane as you feel you need to be. The intention of this podcast is to inspire your inner marketing rockstar, and for this week's dose of marketing street knowledge, Cathy McKnight is in the studio to talk about the importance of brand voice and tone, and then I join Robert Rose in our virtual bar for a cocktail and a discussion about silos and a term I've never heard before, boundary spanners. But first, we need to pay the bar tab. I'll be back in a moment.
We'll be right back. After this word.
We'll be right back.
After this word. We'll be right
Welcome back, Cathy, to Rockstar CMO FM. How are you?
I'm well, Ian. How are you?
I'm doing well. I don't know why we always do that clipped accent thing when we start off. It says, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you? Very
we're so
articulate.
prim. Yes, we're so prim.
Enunciation.
Exactly. And how is sunny Toronto? I believe it is sunny.
It's stinking hot.
Stinking.
37 degrees here today.
Yeah, we're getting the same. And we were just talking about it before. The difference is you've got that sort of North American air conditioning habit, and we have that European, we'll just swelter.
Yes. Well, good on you. Talk about building character. Thank you very much. I'll be a wuss and take my air conditioning.
Yeah. We'll open a window and it'll be just as hot.
Even hotter, because you're letting all the hot air in contained air. So yes.
Actually, it's cooled down a bit. And it's funny when it cools down. So I think we were at like 20 degrees this morning when I went for my walk, which is the coolest it's been for it feels like weeks. And you're like, ooh.
Perspective, right?
Yeah. Yes. But yes, very, very, very nice. And we always mention the gardens. Mine is barren dry. And I'm just walking around with a watering can, just keeping some of the ones alive that I want to make sure that we keep, because we've got a hose pipe ban. We're not allowed to spray our gardens anymore or anything like that. So
yeah, one of the best investments we did was we have a irrigation system. So it's not perfect.
Nice.
Because it's 15, 16 years old. So it's, there's better systems out there now, but it saves some time because I have a bunch of standalone pots and things where the sprinkler system doesn't get. And that takes me, I'm doing it in the morning and I'm doing it in the afternoon because things are just baking. Like my petunia basket, for anybody who knows gardening, you can't kill petunias. Oh gosh, mine are like scorched. I'm actually looking at it going, crap, I might actually have to replace it.
Well, again, we are tempted to do our gardening podcast, but we're not going to do our gardening podcast. We're going to sweat marketing. And again, I will try and phrase this correctly and not say anything about your bare essentials, but we are going to explore your bare essentials. And one of your recent articles a couple of weeks ago, which I enjoyed, your voice and tone aren't guidelines, they're a discipline. And you talk about how we need to define our voice and tone. And it made me smile because we've all been in this situation, right? We go on an offsite in a windowless hotel conference room, get the whiteboard out and all that kind of stuff. Bunch of marketers. And we define all this stuff, get it beautifully printed, probably get an agency involved. And then it goes stored away on some dusty digital shelf. We forget all about it. And as you say in your article, you think having a voice and tone guide is enough? People have read it. You ran the workshops. The PDF is on the shared drive. The brand book was refreshed last year. You're done. But as you say, and I love this phrase you use, your brand voice is a whisper. And we've all been doing this forever. So, you come back to the office, you're all pumped from the workshops, and then real life suddenly takes over and you're back on the marketing hamster wheel. So how do we avoid this? But firstly, what inspired you to write this and why does this matter right now?
So this has always been an issue, and I'm pretty sure we've talked about this on the podcast before, but I started my career in internal comms. And so I was the one, and it was a startup, right? It was a technology startup. So there was nothing. I walked in, there was no HR, there was no comms, there was no anything, right? So I'm like, okay, what do we need? And so I built all this stuff and was the one maintaining this stuff. And I remember sharing them. I remember running those workshops, and then nobody ever referenced them, right? People, they looked at me like I had four heads when I asked, oh, did you check this against our brand guidelines? They'd stare at me and ask in earnest, what brand guidelines? Right? Yeah. So, and now I see it time and time again at clients. Teams typically think of voice and tone, like you said, as done once it's written, workshopped, and whatnot. But it's the consistency is the discipline, not the deliverable. And this becomes one of the reasons it came to mind was I just finished up a research paper on the state of content operations in 2026. Of course, everything to do with AI and whatnot. And, this has so much to do with who the company is, what they stand for, what the brand stands for, but also what it doesn't stand for and what its personality is. And people don't think about that, right? And with so many people using Gen AI to write content, which, I don't think they should be. That's another conversation. But generative tools default is this smooth, neutral, kind of useless voice unless it's deliberately trained on your brand, on who it is, what it stands for, what it doesn't stand for, what it should sound like, etc. Right? So without that discipline, anything that's AI written or even AI assisted is going to drift into that middle of the road kind of bland, beigey kind of content, and it's going to sound like everybody else, right?
Yeah. And have you seen? I mean, I know brand is not just about voice and tone, but you see all of these websites that somebody has vibe coded, and they all look very, very similar. And it's exactly as you're saying. If you like you say, you can coach the LLMs to sound a bit different and a bit like you, but you need to have that brand voice tone set up already, which I think is your point, right? But if you don't, it will just drift.
What I think a lot of people miss is the fact that how the brand sounds is recognized by audiences often before they consciously register the name or logo, right? So whether that's tagline, whether it's a jingle, whether it's the way things are phrased, if there's a disconnect, and there often is, depending on the channel and the team creating the content, that means your voice is drifting, and that's a fatal shot to your trust signal.
Yeah. And so do you think part of that question was why it matters now? Does it matter now because, and as we discussed a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about volume and scale, right? It's now that people are reaching for the easy button and they're pumping this stuff out. And it matters that we're educating the AI and the LLMs on what our tone and voice is. Is that why it's important? I mean, it's always been important. So don't,
yes, that's what I said, right? Unless you're training not only the team, but the machines. And, the machine, whatever it is, whatever tool you're using, that's not just feeding it a 57-page PDF and saying go, right? There's intricacies, there's details, there's elements. It's not just, most brand guidelines are, here's our color palette, here's our font, here's the kerning, here's what to do. Very, very few of them talk about what not to do. And LLMs need that. You can't just say, here, do this, because they're going to assume, okay, everything else is okay too. You have to be very explicit on what it's not. And I would venture to guess that, I don't even know what the number would be, high 90s, that brand guidelines don't talk to the we are not and don't do this.
We were talking about LLMs here, and then we also touching on, what it is that teams are doing wrong. So we've started to talk about that a bit. Do you think that even when it's humans that are writing the content, that we still had this problem? We've just got this problem at scale now, right? Is that
correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, because again, you write you have the, as you mentioned, you have the PDF, but that's a file. That's not a system, right? A lot of people
Yeah.
assume that brand voice and tone, as well as the look and feel, is the job of the brand and the creative teams. And it's not. It's everybody's job, because so many people are contributing to or creating content across the org, and marketing organizations and content orgs have become so bifurcated. Some of them, against single brand, some of them against channel, or both. And so it becomes so disconnected. And so it has to be part of everybody's nomenclature and understanding and baseline knowledge in order to get it right.
Absolutely. And the more we talk about it, and the more you're exploring it here, and it wasn't something I was going to ask you about, but it's almost cultural, isn't it? It's like, if you work for XYZ brand and it has a quirky, fun kind of way about it, then you're going to need to be naturally like that in your writing in order to reflect this, right? So, it's and not everybody can do that. So it's part of defining the culture of the organization as much as a tone of voice, isn't it? It goes deeper.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So so specifically, what are teams doing wrong? So we've already identified here that they're filing the thing away and they're not doing it. Perhaps a different way of putting this question better would be, what is it that, how can we bring these documents to life? How can we make them relevant? How do we get people to adopt them? And it sounds like you started doing this very early in your career. So how are we doing it now? What are your clients seeing?
So many are struggling. And as I said, the first thing is making people understand, getting people to understand that it's not just a brand and creative team thing, that it's a much broader marketing and content requirement, a baseline system, so to speak. I'm big on systems. And, I always try and make things as frictionless as possible, especially at the outset. Because if there's friction, if it's hard, if you're asking too much at the beginning, then it's never going to happen. So if you hand somebody even a 20-page brand guideline, they're going to look at it and go, yeah, okay. Right?
Yeah.
So I always say, start with something like building a brand voice one-pager, something that's scannable, example-driven, so not thou shalts, but here's what good looks like, here's what bad looks like, or not correct looks like. Be explicit about what the brand does and doesn't sound like. The don't do this, I find often are way more valuable than the do this rules, right? People know generally what to do, but they're not sure what the don't sounds like. So give them examples. Show them what good sounds like. Show them what the tone, write out what the tone sounds like. And now, we have so many tools. So I say a one pager. I like having visual reference. I create cheat sheets for myself all the time, whether in a notebook or like on a PowerPoint and print it out. I jam as much as I can on a single 8.5 by 11. But you could do it electronically as well, right? So read it out. So give them audio and they'll hear the difference. Sometimes reading it in Word, like reading it on paper, you're kind of like, yeah, okay, I kind of see it. And then you read it and you hear it audibly. You're like, oh, okay, I get it now. Right?
Yeah.
And I think one of the most valuable things to do is run consistent audits. So it's not randomly like, this month I'm going to do it, next month I'm not, and whatnot. Is, what? Every quarter, pull 10 pieces of content from every channel, and score them against the voice, right? And then start building training and updates and tips based on that, on where people are drifting, because I guarantee there will be patterns of drift based on team and or channel.
Yeah. So the techniques, so there's a couple of techniques here, I think, that one of them is, as you say, about process and about, it's always difficult, isn't it, to define a content workflow and get things approved and all that kind of, you don't want to, as you say, you don't want to put too much onerousness on this, because, you want your content to flow, you want people to feel confident about publishing, etc. But there is a little bit of that sort of training going on. But also, is there a systems element to this? Because, for example, I use Grammarly and I fight with it all the time because it insists that I need to speak a certain way It obviously doesn't like it when I swear, when I write my Tuesday 2 cents, and it doesn't like some of the construction of my sentences. But so it's trying to smooth, as you said, right? AI is always trying to smooth it. Now, if your team are using those tools, do we need to encourage the team to ignore the tools, or do we need to try and figure out how to get these tools, train them so that they're guiding the people correctly?
You've got to bake the voice into the AI workflow itself. So whatever tool you're using, and if the tool you're using, like a Grammarly, doesn't allow you to do that, then use a different tool.
Good.
You know, for you and I, independent, 2 or 3 people working, it's fine, right? Because you can fudge with it. What you're talking about with a team or teams plural, it's got to be part, right? So the prompts, the guardrails, the review steps, it's got to be baked into how people get work done. There's so many technologies now, both, you know, on the higher end, like the Adobes of the world, as well as in the smaller, less costly, shall we say, options that, you know, you train it. You've got to do the due diligence, and it's not an hour's job. It takes time. And then it'll do a brand check against what you write.
Yeah.
Right. So it's specific against what you've taught it. So, but you've got to teach it correctly.
And so much of this is now bring your own tools to work thing, isn't it? Because every single fucking thing we touch says, would you like me to write this for you? Whether it's an email, a LinkedIn post, whatever it is, right? So getting those getting the corporately approved tools in front of these tools that people are just there's a governance thing around that as well, isn't there?
Definitely.
Yeah. And is that because also when we're talking about AI, we've been talking about tokens and cost and all that kind of stuff. Are these the things that are playing on the minds of your clients right now? Is how do I manage not only the sort of tech element of this, bring your own tech to work kind of thing, like people worried about in IT when we got our laptops and mobiles and stuff. I know it makes us a bit ancient, but also
BYOD. Whew, that was a while ago.
But also it's, you know, now, especially as we were talking about the LLMs earlier on, and the LLMs are picking up everything that's said about us. So we need to be very cautious in a way about what gets published as a corporation, because that also hangs around. The LLM gets to learn, your brand experiments on monkeys. Well, and they'll think that forever.
I mean, that's a whole other conversation because one of the things that are holding people back from truly like jumping all in on AI and Gen AI and whatnot is their data is such a mess and they don't know what to train it on. Because once you put it in there, it is really hard to get it out.
Exactly.
Right? And we got to remember that, you know, AI is not, it's not innovative, right? So it doesn't know right from wrong unless you tell it. So if you put something in there and then perpetrate and continue to use it and leverage it, or it gets referenced, it's just going to make more and more and more mistakes, right? We talk about AI being a spotlight and an accelerator. Well, the spotlight is going to be, you know, more focused and brighter, whether it's good or bad. And your mistakes or what you're doing well are both going to scale at machine speed.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You kind of got to make sure that stuff is good to go.
You
have to before you get going.
I had, and I'm sure that this is GEO coming into your world of content operations and compliance and all that kind of stuff. Because I had Thomas PM, who was the former CMO of Storyblock. You've probably known from there.
He's got his own thing going now. He's doing so well. It's awesome.
Yeah, he's co-founder of Otterly, right? And then today he posted something from some research that they've done through their tool about deleted content. And it doesn't matter if you delete the content, it's already informed the LLM. And the amount, and I haven't looked at the whole report, but the amount of stuff they were able to find of deleted content where the LLM thought it was still true. Yep. And that's right in your wheelhouse, isn't it? That's why we need content operations.
Well, and the thing is this is what I still find like truly is people don't unpublish or remove content. They unpublish content. They don't remove it or archive it from whether it's their CMS or wherever they're pointing their digital to. They just make it so that you can't see it. Well, guess what? the LLM can still see it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Security by
exactly.
obscurity doesn't work anymore. Like you can't.
No.
So there's so much cleanup that needs to happen, proper archiving.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. Yeah.
And we only
it's
got
a
away
lot.
with it with Google because, Google was still indexing it, but it was on page 20 and nobody went down there, right? And because you'd published something more recent up front. But yeah, this stuff is
It's still there. Yes.
And you finish the article with an exercise I really like, and I've actually done this when I was. No, I won't say where I was. I've actually done this, and I love it. So, what was your try this with your team tip that you left us with?
So people kind of go, "Oh no, that's not a problem, right? We're fine." So what I suggest is pull 5 pieces of content, recently published content from different areas, different channels, different creators. Neutralize it, right? So take off the logos, take off the headers, take off a byline, even take off the date, and then hand them to somebody outside of the marketing content team, right? So find somebody that's not aware and familiar with what you do, and ask them if they sound like they come from the same brand. And more often than not, it's like, kind of, or I'm not sure. Even an I'm not sure, that's a gap, right? Because voice consistency is binary to the audience. There's no spectrum. It either connects or it doesn't. They get it, they recognize it, or they don't, right?
Yeah.
There's no partial credit in this. It's not like, well, kind of, sort of. Okay, well, that's kind of good. It's like, no. It needs to be, yes, this sounds like it's coming. Whether it's your company or not is another thing. But, if there's any kind of wavering or vacillation, then, you got work to do.
Yeah, my version of this is slightly different. What I did was I took the main copy of 5 different homepages of the company and its 4 main competitors. And I said, which one is us? And debranded like you did and all that kind of stuff. And said, which one is us? Because it was all full of, because I was an entering CMO, so I hadn't actually written the content. So it wasn't about what my team had done at the time. Yep. And I said, and it was just full of buzzwords, business speak, and so was everybody else's. And it's like, you can't, and exactly to your point, you can't hear the voice in there. There's no voice in there because you sound like everybody else.
That's the part 2 of the exercise.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Right? Is then, okay, so yes, it does. No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Now, how would you, what are some adjectives? How would you describe this company? What's their tone? What's their personality? Right? And are they using words that you would use?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. All right, so that's your most recent. It's from a couple of weeks ago because I picked this one because I like this one. Your bare essentials, your voice and tone aren't guidelines; they're discipline, which I'll include a link to in the show notes. But I'm not going to let you go quite yet, Kathy, because you've got something quite interesting coming up, and you're having so much fun with the name of your company. So
so much fun. There's so many riffs on bears.
So you're holding an event called Bearings Table, or a series of events, I assume, and the topic, and you've got one coming up. I didn't put the date in the notes. It's coming up next
Monday,
week.
21st.
Next month, 21st of July.
Or 20th. No, it's Tuesday. It's the 21st, I think. 21st.
It's Tuesday. I don't feel so bad now. And the topic is everyone's putting AI into their marketing operations and none of it's working as advertised, which sounds very you and Robert. So tell us about the Bearings Table idea. What are you setting up? What you're doing? And then maybe give us a little teaser of what you're planning to cover next Tuesday.
Sure. So, yes, Bearings Table. Of course, we love a good play on words. It's a working session, so it's not a webinar. We're saying, I think in the copy it says it's a table, not a TED Talk. Attendees are in the conversation. They're not audience. They're participants, right? So we're curating this small group with purpose, and making sure that no 2 attendees, compete with each other. And so they're in an environment where they can actually say what's true, like what is their reality versus what they want people to think, right? So this month's topic is based on my new research report, that's the state of content operations in 2026, why I made your content mess impossible to ignore. a little cheeky because, that's how I am. And the premise is that everybody is stuffing marketing AI into marketing operations, but nobody's seeing ROI on it, right? And nor are they willing to admit how little it actually works compared to what the vendors and supporting consultants promised how it would work, right? So Robert and I are putting the reality on the table. We see this day in, day out with our clients. We're not naming names. We're not throwing anybody under the bus, right? But it's here's what's really going on. And, so looking at it from various standpoints so that people can feel like, one, there's a safe space, but they can also get real answers.
Yeah. And it's a group of senior executives, isn't it? And you'll and so everybody's going to be participating in that, which sounds really interesting. And there's a small fee, I guess I should point out, but but I think I think that just means you're serious. So I think that's good.
Well, that's just it. And, I don't know if I said or not. So this is a live one time, we're curating the group. We're going to cap the attendees so that it's not a competition over who gets a voice. It's an hour and a half. It's $125. So, way less than an hour of consulting. And, we're going to look at things from the outside looking in. So, that's the research. We're going to look at it from the inside looking out. What do best class workflows look like? What are content strategies we've seen working to help these people build their business case, right? For whether they need to pause, whether they need to reset, and what they really need to get ready. And then practical next steps, because we're all about making sure that you don't just come and hear, blah, 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 the chitty chatty heads, is people are going to have things to walk away from with that they can start. And we've got anybody who signs up, there's it's 5 questions, super quick questionnaire after they register so that we work their issues into the session. We're making sure we're covering so there's value for everyone. And the big bonus we think is this is our inaugural one. It's the first one we're doing. And if they want, they can sign up for 30 minutes follow-up with Robert and I.
Nice. Yeah,
private, like just, one on one, or one to one with Seventh Bear.
One on two.
Yeah. That sounds bad. So
2-on-1. I don't know how the conversation's going to go. And you saying it's blah, 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 chatty. That's not you and Robert at all. Anyway, it would be good stuff even if you didn't let anybody else speak. I can imagine this is going to be a really interesting challenge with facilitation and letting that. So it sounds like a lot of fun. So good luck with that.
Yeah, it's going to be. I'm excited. It's going to be. I think it's going to be really good.
I bet you are. Splendid. All right. Well, when people spin the dial on the interwebs, Kathy, and they're looking for you or they're looking for Bearings Table, where are they going to find all these things?
I'm Kathy with a C, McKnight, on LinkedIn. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's all personal, but I do a lot of photography. Did some great shots in Chicago, like we talked about last time, which I think I might actually get up and post this week. Or seventhbear.com, where you'll find my weekly Bear Essentials as well as details about Bearings Table. And that's where you can sign up as well and find out about all the fun stuff Robert and I do and how you can work with us. And I think that's
Splendid.
Probably it.
All right. Well, I'll yes. So when I put this together, hopefully I am now going to go to the bar to see Robert, and I guess he's going to tell me some more about the table as well. So, but for you, Kathy, I'll see you again in a couple of weeks' time for your it's slightly less than a monthly visit, but for your next visit, and so I look forward to that. So I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks, Ian.
Cheers, Kathy.
Cheers.
Thank you, Kathy. And I like that phrase. Your brand voice is a whisper. And their Bearings Table event sounds good. And I believe they may have a couple of spots left if you get in there quick before Tuesday. And you can find that on their website, as we said, seventhbear.com. Right, time to wind down now, virtual bar. The Rose and Rockstar, and join Robert Rose, chief troublemaker at Seventh Bear, as I pick his brains over a classic cocktail.
friend. Welcome to the bar.
Thank you very much, mate. How are you doing?
I'm doing remarkably well. It is, we are here. I'm not even going to get into the government stuff. The Trump's speech last night had me all, blah, blah, blah.
I missed that. I missed that specific thing. Yes, we've been absorbed by the World Cup and the aftermath of the World Cup, and us English, I should say, us English being knocked out by the Argentinians. So yes, that's been the talk of the town for the last couple of days.
Yes. Well, my condolences, I suppose, are in order. I'm rooting for England for the third place, though.
I don't think anybody. No, we don't usually care about third place.
Is that right?
In soccer, yeah. I think it's just, we'll see. I mean, if the nation can get stirred. I mean, it is against France, which is, that
is true.
Tough job. Yeah. But nobody cares about third. It's always the winner and the finalists.
And who do you have? I mean, which will be decided, I think, by the time people hear this for the most part?
No. This particular one will be going out on tomorrow, so on Saturday, and the
game is
final
on
Sunday. Yeah. So, presuming I get my act together with editing this tomorrow. But yes, and I understand from listening to your podcast that everybody you've gone for has been knocked out.
I was originally because of my lineage, I've always been a Scotland fan, so Scotland is certainly there. They got knocked out early. And then I was rooting for England, and England got knocked out, and I was rooting also for Mexico, and I picked Mexico to do very well, and they didn't do very well. The U.S. never really figured into I'm not a fan, but and so so everyone I've picked has been a loser, and so Joe was kind enough to say basically, hey, this is a perfect way to bet, right? So the call sheet, futures markets are basically looking at me and saying, whatever he does, do the opposite. So, and I have Argentina for the
which is great for me because I want to go for Spain, just because we spend quite a lot of time in Spain, and it's a bit like your affinity to Mexico, isn't it? You enjoy being there, and so one of my daughters can speak a fair amount of Spanish, and so we went for Spain versus France. We watched that game. So I'm Spain all the way. So now that England have been knocked out. So I think that's great news that you went for Argentina then.
Yeah. There you go. So we'll see. We will see.
All right, mate. Well, we didn't come into the bar just to talk football, but normally I should say soccer. When we have a soccer, there's usually a little drink going on. So what are we going with this week?
This week we will have an espresso martini. Something that's good for you right now, I suppose, because something that could pick you up and wake you up a little bit. But it's and of course espresso martinis are extraordinarily simple to make. All we need, I have to say the vodka martini works better here than the gin. I think it matches well with the liqueur and the espresso. So you do 2 ounces of vodka, of course, and then you have your favorite coffee liqueur. Kahlua is the usual selection, but pick your coffee liqueur as you will. And then, of course, 1 ounce of espresso, freshly brewed. Cold brew also works, but I like freshly brewed better. And then, that's it. That's all it really is. Shaky, and away we go. Right? It's lovely. For me, I don't know why it always becomes my Saturday night go-to.
I love it. Yeah. And the trouble is they're so easily quaffable, aren't they? After a nice dinner, and then
problem. Then you're both awake and drunk, and so
they're dangerous.
Become a problem for sure.
And yes, you were alluding to me being slightly jaded for our evening recording this Friday, because I did have a rather nice lunch today with I don't know that you know Teresa particularly well, but Teresa Regley, who's been on the show.
I know Teresa very well.
Yeah, you do. Yes, good. Yeah, so mutual friend, I should say, in the CMS. Well, she's more DAM than CMS, but in the
that's
DAM
right.
business. So I'm not sure whether she listens, but if she does, thank you for lunch, Teresa.
Nice. Nice.
So
she's also quite the foodie. She's quite the foodie.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So she'll always takes you to a nice place.
Oh, well, let me tell you, we take turns choosing. And when it's my turn to choose, the pressure I feel, I don't know if you ever get this kind of anxiety, but I'm like, I have to find somewhere. She likes to, she likes these various different places, and I have to choose and find somewhere, and the pressure. But today was a success, and she liked today, so it was a winner.
Nice. Nice.
All right, mate. So today, and I'm laughing already because of the words I'm going to use. I want to ask you about boundary spanners.
Okay, fantastic.
It's not your most recent article. In a couple of articles ago, in your rose-colored glasses series that you write for Content Marketing Institute, you grasp the classic topic of organizational silos. We've been talking for, I don't know, a couple of decades about busting them, but we know that's not the right thing to do because silos are human nature. It's the way we cluster. So you can't bust them. And you mentioned the word boundary spanners that you got from an article from the Institute for Management Development. Tell me about these people. What do they do?
Well, basically the thrust of the article was around silo busting.
Yeah.
And the key there is that when we think about marketing for the last 20 years, let's say, there has been sort of this underlying pressure. You've seen it in so many presentations, so many keynotes, so many white papers around why we need to break down the silos of marketing, right? So we need to, as the theory goes, you break down the silo between demand gen, PR, comms, sales, the web team, the digital team versus the regular marketing team, all those different groups that have emerged during the last 26 years. And everybody will dance off into a field of poppies of meadow and unicorns and rainbows will emerge and collaboration, thrives. And of course, it never happens, and we never do it, and we remain as siloed as ever. Yeah. And there have been increasingly numbers of ways to approach the quote unquote de-silo, including sort of the pods that were very popular during the 2010s. Where we basically built everybody around outcomes versus the groups, and of course, all that did was create smaller silos, basically, where everybody got proprietary around their own little thing, and ultimately. What I have discovered to be, a more productive conversation with the clients that I work with anyway, is just stop trying to de-silo the organization, lean into the silos, but make them permeable, make them transparent if you can. And so that information and tasks and things flow more freely between them. And you say, okay, well, that's a nice thought, but how does that actually happen? And the way it happens is that you create these roles, specific roles that are built to be the facilitators of that information. The classic example of this is, think of a life cycle of content, right? From intake of the idea to prioritization of the idea to creation of the content to production of the digital asset to, scheduling of it in the CMS or whatever to activation of it on all the channels to measurement across all the channels and then back around to strategy or planning or whatever it is again. That sort of life cycle. Well, inevitably, that is the silos, right? Each silo has one part of that step, right? So creative has the creation part, the design team has the production part, the project managers or marketers have the planning or the distribution part, and somebody else has the measurement part, and nobody talks to each other. And so the way to think about that bridge role is someone who spans all of those areas and basically is responsible for sort of, shepherding this thing across all of the different areas so that somebody actually does, in the classic racy example, own the thing. And but now it's not really an ownership. It's as much a information facilitation as it is an ownership of the actual thing, because that can get weirdly political too. So as it turns out, the newsrooms and media companies already have this role identified, and they call them boundary spanners. And I was fascinated by the term as well, and looked a little further into it. And they are there. They are there to bridge editorial, sales, production, all of those things as a bridge role to oversee, not necessarily manage, but to oversee the transparency between the different groups and to act as a bridge, basically a permeable membrane within each of the silos to basically pull information in, push information back out, and that's their responsibility. And so I thought it was an excellent corollary that we could start to build as a role within marketing and content as well.
I'm not sure how many people want to be called boundary spanners.
Right?
It's an interesting word, and I hadn't heard it at all until I read your article.
I hadn't either until I started doing some research, and then I found this sort of this association that apparently has, it's a very common term apparently that I had never heard of.
No, and then, but going back to your point there about the pods, I remember when that was the thing, right? And but what I found with that was you had your subject matter expert, say like you had your SEO expert or your somebody expert, and you needed to sit in all of these meetings, and they just spent their whole lives context switching between these different meetings and not really. And that was, I mean, the pod sounds like a great idea, but in action, everybody's too fragmented then, aren't they?
Indeed. And it's less of, because when we think about fragmentation, right, specialization, right, that's what it really gets down to. So, you really want, your demand gen team to be just insanely good at demand generation, right? So it's a very special skill. You want your SEO people to be just insanely good at SEO, and there's the whole T-shaped sort of employee thing, which, because of the fragmentation of the marketing and content process, has put pressure to fragment into deeper specializations, right? It's the complexity of digital and content marketing that has emerged over the last 16 years, that it's just each of those specializations are very highly skilled positions, and it's impossible for somebody to be an expert in all of it. So there's a natural tendency for people to fragment from each other and only do the things that they know how to do, right? So your SEO people are typically not, for example, going to be great writers, but they're great technical content managers that are able to sort of optimize things for search. I'm making, that's obviously a generalization, but generally speaking, that's the idea. And so the fragmentation, or specialization, it makes sense, right? It makes general sense. The question is how do you glue those things together so that they don't become things in which you end up with a game of telephone where a piece of content gets thrown over the wall to another specialization group who does their thing to it, and by the time it crosses and gets thrown over 14 walls, it ends up not being the thing that you thought it was going to be, and it ends up being very average and et cetera, et cetera. So that's the challenge that most businesses have, is that we give a lot of lip service to collaboration, but what collaboration really means is, let me do my thing to the thing, and then once I do my thing to the thing, I've now contributed and can check off the checkbox.
Yeah. Well, it's you talk about the very clear roles and the specialism, and I think you're right. And that's the path that a lot of marketers have taken with their careers. A lot of marketers don't want to be generalists, and then of course, as they go up the slippery pole, they've got to become generalists, because if you want to have a leadership position. But do you think? It would have been wonderful to have a conversation without mentioning AI, and I nearly did it, but. Do you think AI is changing this? Because now everybody's has got access to be a little bit knowledgeable at everything. So, the first pass at, whether something passes an SEO sniff test can now be done by a machine, that kind of thing. Do you think that's now blurring those lines? Could AI be a boundary spanner?
Well, that's a great question. And the answer is, I think, maybe. It's a really interesting question to explore. I mean, it's certainly being sold that way. But I think in so many ways that you need someone that I'm thinking out loud here, but basically it strikes me that the boundary spanner's main skill would be ensuring fidelity, if that's the right way to say it, right?
Yeah.
And so in ensuring fidelity, the role has to be one that pushes back when things tend to drift, right? So going back to my previous analogy where it's like, as a specialist throwing things over the walls, I'm doing my thing to the thing, right? And what the boundary spanner's job is to make sure that between the walls, the game of telephone doesn't happen, right? That fidelity is maintained for the piece that is, whether it's a campaign, full stop with multiple assets, or whether it's just a single thought leadership white paper or whatever it is, that fidelity is made. So it means pushing back a lot. And I'm not sure AI is the best.
Well, I mean, as soon as you said the word fidelity there, I was thinking that's the human in the loop when we are working with AI, isn't it? The human provides that fidelity.
That's right. But it's more than fidelity on making sure the grammar is correct and that we haven't used anything jargony. That it's more than just checking jargon or buzzwords or AI language or those kinds of error checking. Right. The fidelity there does it maintain the fidelity of the original thought and idea and story we want to tell against the distribution strategy that we want to take in doing it, right? So there's I think the more I talk, the more it sounds like AI wouldn't be a good candidate, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure we couldn't figure out a way that it could, but it's a really interesting question.
Yeah. I mean, because we have tried to solve the silo problem with technology in the past, right? Workflow tools were supposed to solve all this stuff and all that, but it's a people problem, really, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It's always as I used to maybe too cutely say when I was back working for a content management company, I would always say content management is a process. It's not a project, right? And nor is it a product, right? And so great content management has nothing to do with a product, or it has nothing to do with the project. It has everything to do with the process. And so, and so the process is innately human. All the CMS can do and workflow tools can do is enforce guardrails that have been put into human processes. And so, what John does with the big red button that says you must review this is never going to be solved by technology. Either John pushes the button and says, I'm going to take the time to review this, or it deletes the email from his and says approved without even me looking at it because I'm too busy to even bother.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember when we used to be selling this stuff and it was displaying the most complicated workflow in a CMS system and being proud as punch with it. And then somebody on the prospect side going, can we turn all of that off?
Right.
They know that it's not going to work, right? The other thing I liked about this article, aside when you were talking about silos, you also used you quoted "insane in the membrane" from Cypress Hill. How do you do
that's
this?
Just a human proof of life, my friend. That's just all that was just to make sure that everybody knew that AI didn't write that thing.
So that's it. I mean, I guess that soon these LLMs will start swearing, and then my proof of life will disappear in my writing. So I'm going to figure out something out as well. But that's great. So you just dropped the "insane in the membrane" in just to show the world that wasn't AI that wrote it.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
I love it, mate. And so where else can people find writing that you're going to prove AI didn't write it by dropping in little proofs of life?
You should go check out our website, which is at seventhbear.com, where we have, I should mention, we have a lovely event coming up that would love, speaking of AI and workflow and all of the things, we have an event coming up. We're calling it the Bearings Table next Tuesday, if people want to register for that. And so it's a paid event, but it's going to be a small group, but very valuable. We're going to debut some proprietary research. And we're going to have a discussion. This is not a webinar. It's not a TED Talk. It's an actual discussion with people. So it'll be a very small group to have that intimate discussion of senior marketers talking about what's actually happening in the implementation of AI into marketing operations. So
nice. And
so you can get that at seventhbear.com.
Nice. And Kathy was also, I know that we record these things separately, and Kathy was just talking about that earlier as well. But just to remind the listeners, they can get to that on your website, seventhbear.com. I think it's the big label at the top, and it's on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific, which would be 1 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Eastern,
2 o'clock
7
Eastern,
PM
and sometime in the middle of the night.
No, 7 p.m. UK. Yeah. Splendid, mate. And when people spin the dial on the interwebs and they don't see you at the table, they just see you in the regular world, where are they going to find you?
They'll find me on LinkedIn for sure. Yeah, that's really the only social media I'm spending any time on at the moment.
Splendid, mate. And for my selfish purposes, will you be in the bar next week?
Of course I will.
I look forward to it, mate. I'll see you then. Thank you, Robert. An episode of Revisiting the Classics this week. Brand voice with Kathy, and then that age-old challenge of busting the silos, but a fresh take, and I like those boundary spanners. So that's a wrap on episode 331 of the Rockstar CMO effing marketing podcast. Thanks to Kathy and Robert, but most of all, thank you for putting a dime into your podcasting jukebox, selecting our track, and jiving along with us. I've been your host, Ian Truscott, and you can find links to our little band and the artists we discussed in the show notes, along with links to our blog, newsletter, and all of our previous episodes at rockstarcmo.com. Or follow us and join the conversation on LinkedIn. Next week, I'll be chatting with Simon Daniels about some fresh B2B buyer research from Accenture Song, and Robert will be back in the bar. In the meantime, on the topic of teamwork, I'm ready for the World Cup this weekend. A quote from Michael Jordan: "Talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence wins championships."
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.